welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And today's episode is brought to you by Fairhaven Health. Stop battling with storage bags filled with either too much or too little milk. The Milky's milk trays freeze your milk into 1 ounce sticks. And today's episode is also brought to you by Nikki's Natural Wipes, the first all-natural baby wipes made with Manuka honey and coconut oil. And we'll hear more from our sponsors later, but these sponsors make this podcast possible. So head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and you can check out our sponsor page if you need anything and see if you can give them any of your business. And while you're there, be sure to scroll down and enter your email address and you'll get episodes sent straight to your inbox every Monday. And now Dianne has our review of the week.
And this one comes from iTunes. And this was, she sent this to us back in May. So I am really happy to read it. Said the title of this is Breastfeeding Miracle. I started listening to your podcast when I was 1 month postpartum and my baby literally couldn't latch. It was like watching someone stab themselves with a spoon. She just saw a nipple and had no idea what to do with it. We saw 5 LCs, had a tongue tie corrected, saw a pediatric chiropractor, and read the entire internet in the hopes that I could figure out how to solve my baby's problem. I hated your podcast at first because I felt awful. I couldn't breastfeed, but I kept listening for some reason. I was exclusive pumping and was about to throw in the towel and just go to formula. But on one episode, one of you said your baby was born to breastfeed and something to the effect of your baby wants nothing more than to breastfeed. And that really clicked for me. I had thought my baby was rejecting me, but you helped me to realize that the opposite of that was what was happening. I kept offering her the breast until she was 3 months, and one day she was able to do it, literally overnight. I stopped being chained to a pump, and my baby and I entered into a totally blissful, easy breastfeeding relationship. So I'm so glad I continued to listen to your wisdom on this topic, and I thank you for giving me the right perspective to keep going when it was tough. Breastfeeding has been the best human experience of my life thus far, and I get emotional thinking what we would have missed out on if I had given up. Thanks for providing such solid, grounding discussions.
Wow.
I know. So inspiring.
And reading the whole internet, like I can so relate to that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad she doesn't hate us anymore.
I know. I know. I was like, oh, she hated us for a minute.
Oh my God, someone hates me. I know a lot of people hate me, but whatever. That's really amazing.
Yeah. Thanks for not giving up. I mean, and this was from Fresh Sarah. Her name on here is Fresh Sarah. So thank you so much for not giving up and for keeping it going. And
congratulations. You did so much work.
And this is the reason why I tell people, like, if your baby doesn't latch in the beginning, don't give up. Don't give up. She was 3 months in. And I've personally have seen that happen with clients of mine. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in, and the baby finally latches. It can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so true, too, that, like, we just think, sometimes we're told, like, well, your baby is just not, it's just not for your baby, or your baby just doesn't want to, but all babies want to. And the baby's just as frustrated as you are.
Yeah. And,
like, it doesn't feel good to anybody.
And you do feel like it's a personal attack on you.
Yeah, totally. I did, too. Yeah.
I mean, you really feel like, oh my gosh, they don't want me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's really, really hard for, like you said, for everybody. So she did an amazing job. So thank you for continuing to listen and for just not giving up. I think it's fantastic. It's amazing. So That's it. That's my story. That's Fresh Sarah's story. And if you want to send us I want to say your updates, but your experience, your suggestions, anything, we would love to hear it. You can put it on iTunes for us. That really helps the podcast a lot. Or you can send us an email at badassbreastfeedingpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. And we would like to acknowledge that it is World Breastfeeding Week.
Woo woo.
And the start of Breastfeeding Awareness Month. Breastfeeding Awareness Month is the whole month, and then World Breastfeeding Week is the first week, and then the second week is Native Breastfeeding Week, and then the third week is I'm not sure, and then the last week is Black Breastfeeding Week, and it's just chock full of all kinds of things, and actually kind of business as usual around here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, to your surprise, We're talking about breastfeeding today.
At the first week of World Breastfeeding Month. Yes.
We're going to celebrate World Breastfeeding Month by talking about breastfeeding for something new.
Yeah. Don't fall off your chair. It's us.
Yeah. So you can, so like it's business as usual around here. I'll be posting on the Badass Breastfeeder on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, celebrating each week and, posting kind of, things that are going on. If you want to follow along, feel free to do so.
Absolutely. And if you're new to us, check out our episodes from last year, because we did have, we had an episode with somebody specifically for Native Breastfeeding Week, which was really, really interesting and enlightening. And we had special things for Black Breastfeeding Week and even just for World Breastfeeding Month. I remember we did breastfeeding around the world.
Yeah.
So check those out too. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll share those. I can link those episodes throughout the month too on social media. That's a good idea. So today we're going to talk about milk supply and things that you can do to hurt your milk supply.
It's not as easy as you think.
No, it's very difficult. And I would bet that it's probably the things that are generally not what you think.
Right.
We're told a lot of things hurt our milk supply when they actually don't. And then we're told that things don't hurt our milk supply when they actually do.
Yeah.
Or can, if you follow that, honestly, probably your doctor's advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Or internet.
Or the internet. Yeah, right.
So do you want to start?
So sure. So we both made like little lists and we were just going to share it. And what if we talk about milk? Should we talk about milk supply?
Yeah.
And like, what is milk supply? Because sometimes I think that can straighten things out too. Like even just the fact that, supply and demand, taking milk out of your breast helps your body make more milk. Like, these are things that we just don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I know. And I didn't know that. And when I had my kids, I thought for sure, like when I was breastfeeding for the first time with my son, like I thought it would just go away. Like, how do I keep it? Like I was breastfeeding all the time, but I was like, but what could happen? Felt like I was constantly in this phase of like, oh my God, is it just going to go away? Am I just not going to have any milk tomorrow? I didn't realize that the more you breastfeed, the more your body is telling your baby that they need the milk, and the more your body's just going to make the milk in response to that. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty cool system, really. It's effortless, really.
Yeah, it really just works on its own. Mm-hmm. And it's like we go through all these health classes, right, in school, and we talk about all this, and we learn about like our cycle, and we learn about, reproduction and things like that. But beyond that, you never hear anything about birth. You don't hear anything about like breastfeeding. It just like stops. And all this this is still information about your body that we're never given. Like, what's going to get you pregnant because like you just grow up knowing that. That's like information like, oh my God, if you have sex, use a condom or have birth control because you could get pregnant. But how often do we hear this as kids? Or it's like, don't have sex. You might get pregnant. Like, these are things that we like know about. But then like beyond that, we don't. And then like, so now we're pregnant. We knew how to do that, but we don't know how to do anything else.
No.
Because the information is not given at all. It's like secret.
I remember years ago when I was working, I think it was when I was still with the WIC department here, and I was, breastfeeding peer counselor coordinator, and I was doing a breastfeeding class, and they were younger girls in the breastfeeding class. I mean, it was mixed class, but there was a couple of younger girls, and they didn't know that even if you choose to not breastfeed, your milk still comes in. They just thought it was an option.
Yeah.
That if they breastfed,
but how would you know?
Right.
If you don't even know
that's exactly
how it's going to start, how do you even know? Like,
it's like that should be in curriculum. Like, if they're going to teach how babies are made in school, which does happen a lot now, they talk about, sex education in school, but they stop at that. It's like, this is a natural physiological change that your body goes through when you have a baby. If you decide to breastfeed or not, your milk is coming in.
Right.
It's going to happen. It's what your body knows how to do. Just because you decide to not breastfeed doesn't mean your milk does not come in.
Yeah, and actually, if you decide not to breastfeed, you have something you have to deal with.
Exactly.
Like milk.
Yeah.
You got to deal with the fact that it's there and you have to, get rid of that milk supply, which is
Yes.
hard. People that are breastfeeding and have a milk supply think that their supply is going to go away easily. But then people who choose to bottle feed off the bat realize that it's not that easy to get rid of your milk.
No. So, I mean, it's really like nobody teaches you about this stuff. You just kind of like, okay, my milk's here. What now? How do I keep it here? What happens to it? Is it gone? You know how many times I get calls from people, but my milk supply's gone. It's just gone.
I get a message daily.
Yeah.
Messages daily. My milk supply dropped, or I went to the dentist and my milk supply is gone. It was gone for a couple days and now my milk supply is gone. And I'm breastfeeding and I'm pumping and I'm doing everything to bring it back, but it won't come back.
It's not gone.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating to be that person who feels like there's no milk in there.
Yeah. But it just doesn't go away that quick.
No, it doesn't. And so when you're pregnant, it actually all starts in pregnancy. Correct?
Correct.
Tell us more.
Yes. And that's when when you get a increased breast growth, and that's your body preparing to breastfeed. Your body is preparing to breastfeed. Your body starts to make colostrum.
While you're pregnant. Some people can express it while they're pregnant.
Yeah, I never could, but I never really thought about it.
I
But
never tried. I never even tried. I was just like, what? There's nothing to do right here, right now.
I know, but some people will leak. I mean, if you leak, that's great. If you don't leak, if you're listening, if you're pregnant, you're listening and you're not leaking, it has nothing to do with what your milk supply is going to be like. Don't worry about that. Right. But some people do leak in pregnancy. Right, and it's all good. It's all your body preparing to breastfeed your baby. And then your baby is born and they survive off the colostrum. That's all they need. We used to have this little saying when we were learning, when I was first starting to learn about breastfeeding and stuff. And it was like, if your baby needed a full milk supply on day one, it would be there. Like, that's just how it would be. But your baby doesn't need a full milk supply on day one.
You also wouldn't feel, if your baby came out hungry, you wouldn't feel like you'd just been hit by a truck. Because your baby's been sucking nutrients from, your baby's like been eating the whole entire time.
Yeah. They're good.
They don't come out hungry. They're like, oh my God, I'm so starving. What a trip. I know. It's such a long journey.
They're full of amniotic fluid still. Like, it's just a whole thing. So all they need is a colostrum, which is very, very, very important for them to have. And as your baby is feeding on the colostrum, it's signaling your body to make the milk. Now, the other thing that triggers your body to make milk is the hormonal response. So as soon as I was going to say the uterus, which would have been just, I don't even know why I was going to say that. But as soon as the placenta leaves your body, not your uterus stays there.
That shouldn't fall out, even though it feels like it's going to fall out.
It does feel like it's going to fall out. But as soon as the placenta leaves your body, your hormones drastically go through a change. And that is what starts to signal your body to make the milk. So it's pretty cool the way the whole process happens. And then usually 2 or 3 days after your baby's born and they've been feeding on colostrum, you've been putting them to the breast, it's on demand whenever they want it. That is triggering your body to get that milk to come in faster. Your body listens to your baby. Your baby tells your body what it needs. And then in comes your milk. Usually by like day 3, day 4, somewhere in there. That's when your milk supply is coming in. And magically, that's when your baby can actually start to hold a little bit more volume too, is by day 3. Because their stomach is so small in the first 2 days of life, and they really can't start to hold much volume until about day 3. So it's perfect. It's a perfect system. Much. It's still not much. No, not at all. Like half an ounce we're talking. We're not talking one of those 2-ounce bottles of formula. Right. We're talking about a half an ounce. It is just a perfect system, and then in that first, the first days home with your baby, just feeding on demand, that is how your body learns what your baby needs. Because your body just doesn't know in the beginning. It's just like floods you with milk and doesn't know, like, all right, how many babies are we feeding here? we feeding one baby or are we feeding two babies?
Mm-hmm.
Your body learns what it needs to do based on your baby feeding. That is the key. And milk out means milk coming back in. And I always like to try to explain it like a glass of water. Like, you're not going to refill a glass of water if it's already full.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're skipping feeds and your breasts are staying full, that's going to tell your body, oh, we don't need milk right now.
Right. So one of the ways you can hurt your milk supply is by feeding on a schedule.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So not allowing
it.
your body, not allowing your baby to decide when they should be emptying the breast, and allowing your baby to have that communication with your body about what they need, when they need it, how much they need. You are told to go home and feed on a schedule, feed every 2 or 3 hours, whatever. And then your breasts are full and not being emptied kind of on demand, which can hurt the supply.
Yeah, because it's telling your body to slow down supply. And along with that, I feel like it goes hand in hand with feeding on a schedule, is timed feeds. So if you are if somebody tells you, oh, only feed 15 minutes, baby doesn't need to feed longer than 15 minutes on a breast. Maybe they're not done yet. And if you're timing your baby and you're saying, oh, time's up, and move them, you're not letting them really give your breast that signal, okay, I'm taking all the milk out of here, I need more to fill in. And if you're leaving the breast full, then your body is going to think it doesn't need to make milk anymore.
Yep.
So I would say just leave them there until they're done. It could be 15 minutes. It could be 20. But sometimes I'll hear people say, oh, your baby never needs to eat longer than 10 minutes. Well,
that's like saying everybody takes the same amount of time to eat.
Right.
That's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand why we lump these babies in they just get thrown in a pool of everybody's the same.
Yeah.
I just don't get that.
And they're as different as adults are. They all take different times to feed. They all feed at different frequencies. They're all different. That's why if you just breastfeed on demand, let your baby decide, and let your body and your baby communicate with each other the way it's supposed to be. Your baby can't do anything. They're just born. They can't do anything, but they can do this.
Yeah.
And they're the best at it. They're better than you at determining what milk supply is going to be.
Yeah, they know what they need.
And let's talk more about that after a break and hear from our sponsors.
That was quick.
It really was. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Nikki's Natural Wipes. Nikki's was created out of the passion of two new parents wanting to protect the health of their precious new baby, Nikki. Conventional baby wipes contain harsh chemicals that can lead to redness, itchiness, dry skin, a burning sensation, and even blisters and urinary tract infections. Utilizing the miraculous antibacterial qualities of Manuka honey, combined with the proven ability of coconut oil to moisturize dry skin, Nikki's has set a new global standard for premium baby wipes. The smell and feel of the wipes is unique, 100% natural, ethically sourced, EWG certified, and biodegradable. Check out the first all-natural baby wipes made with Manuka honey and coconut oil on Nikis.com, Nikis.com, and use promo code BADASS10 for 10% off of your purchase. And today's episode is also brought to you by Fairhaven Health. Are you tired of defrosting breast milk from your storage bags only to find that it's too much or too little? What if you could defrost the exact amount of milk you need every time? The Milky's milk trays look like regular ice cube trays, but have 16 semi-cylinder cavities that each hold 1 ounce of milk. When it's time to feed your baby or prepare bottles for the day, just pop however many breast milk sticks you need into any type of brand of bottle. Nothing is wasted. No extra breast milk left over, tempting your caregiver to overfeed your baby and blow through your precious stash. Once the sticks are frozen, just transfer them into a freezer bag, freeing up the milk trays for your next batch of breast milk. And they come with lids so that they can be stacked, which will free up space in your freezer. They are reusable, environmentally friendly, made with food-grade safe plastic, and can be used for baby food later on. No BPA, phthalates, or dyes. Check out the Milky's milk trays at fairhavenhealth.com. That's FAIRHAVEN health.com, and use code BADASS for 15% off of your purchase. And all of our sponsors and the promo codes can be found in our show notes under this episode at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. Our show notes will also include further information about things we talked about in this episode. And at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, you can also find our breastfeeding resources, all of our other episodes, and information about scheduling your very own one-on-one online lactation consultation with Dianne. And now back to how to hurt your milk supply, which everybody wants to avoid. So we're telling you exactly what you can do to hurt it so you can avoid doing that.
So I have also skipping feeds, which is pretty much kind of what we were just talking about. Like that will definitely hurt your milk supply. And I don't mean like, okay, you went to the dentist, like you said, you had what if I went to the dentist and my milk supply is gone?
Right.
Like you go to the dentist, you miss a feed. Like if it happens once, it's not going to hurt your milk supply. If it's consistent, then it's going to hurt your milk supply.
Right. Again, because your milk supply is pretty sturdy, right? So it's hard to hurt your milk supply. So these are not things that you can do just like once in a while and hurt your milk supply. But if you're consistently practicing this, if that's just what you do day in and day out, skip feeds, space feeds, time feeds,
schedules,
yeah, your milk supply will not respond to that.
Right. And I see that one of the examples of that is when parents go back to work. Mm-hmm. And that's really hard. That's really, 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 really hard because you're trying to balance working with pumping, and that can be a really difficult thing to do. And, you've just been on maternity leave. You don't want to say, hey, I need all this time free so I can pump. So I do find that sometimes parents are trying to decrease the amount of times they have to go pump. And, can I get away with only pumping once or twice at work, or it'll really hurt my milk supply? And yeah, over time it will. It will. It's unfortunate, and it sucks that in the United States we have a horrible maternity leave that you have to go back to work while you're still dealing with this. But it will impact your milk supply if you only pump once in a workday.
Well, and it's one of the reasons why people don't reach their breastfeeding goals.
Yes, it is.
It's because it messes everything up. And you do have to be pumping pretty consistently throughout the day. Like every time your baby would normally be breastfeeding, you need to be pumping throughout the day in order to maintain that supply. And that was really hard for most jobs, that's really difficult to do. And then you get into jobs like EMTs or, nurses, or who are just like
teachers
moving. Yeah, right. Where you can't just be, when I was at work and I was going to return to work, I had an office and I worked in my office. And so I was pretty much able to pump whenever I needed to, or was going to be able to pump whenever I needed to if I decided to go back. And that was the plan, and that was fine. And that probably would have worked out okay. Of course, then again, you have to learn how to pump because that's not like an automatically known skill.
Right.
And then you have to get that right. And then you have to, it's no wonder that people are just like, this isn't working.
Yeah. It's really,
because it's not the
really
way
difficult.
that your body and your baby are set up to function.
Yeah. And I wish there was a magical way that I could tell people, yeah, don't worry about it. Only pump once or twice during the workday. Your milk supply will be fine. Right. But I can't. It's just not going to survive that. It's just going to learn, it's just going to think, okay, we don't need milk right now.
Right.
Baby's not feeding at this time. We don't need milk right now. So that's definitely one of the things, like you said, that's a struggle for sometimes people don't make their goals because of work conflicts.
Yep. So far we have all the same ones because that was my next one.
Oh, was it? What else you got?
So one of the things I think too is waiting to fix problems.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So if your baby is struggling, if you're having problems early on, with latch because of whatever, sometimes there's lip ties, tongue ties, other kinds of issues, just not learning how, to get a good latch. Or other kinds of problems, that can lead to baby not transferring enough milk. And, you run into all those issues and you don't get those fixed early on. Because again, that affects the amount of milk that your baby's pulling out of your body.
Yes.
which will then leave the milk in there and signal to your body that it doesn't need any more.
Yes, that's a very good one. Yeah.
So, like we always say, get that lactation consultant while you're pregnant. And if you didn't, that's okay because they're still out there. But when you start to run into problems, you don't have to wait until you have a full-blown problem. You can even call a lactation consultant if you don't have a problem and just say, hey, I don't know what's going on. Everything seems okay. I don't know. Can you tell me like if everything's okay? And we even have an episode of how do you know if breastfeeding is going well?
Yeah. And I have people that call me about that all the time. They'll be like, I feel like it's going okay, but I just want to make sure. I just want to double check. I just want to know that we're headed in the right direction. And that's good.
Yeah, that's a great way to make sure that like your baby's, getting everything it needs out of your breast.
And then I have people call me that are like 2 months in and they're like, I thought it would just fix itself.
Right.
And then now they're struggling.
Yeah.
And milk supply
my baby's never had
suffering.
a good latch. I don't know why. It's always been painful. It really hasn't gone, and now, I don't know. I feel like my milk supply is gone after 2 months of doing this. And it probably is. Not gone, but like,
struggling for sure.
Struggling.
Yeah.
So about milk supply, just a quick note. So I stopped breastfeeding when Exley was 5. He just turned 7. So that was like around the time about 2 years ago was when everybody had like officially weaned. And I think I told this story a few months ago that I was like itching inside my shirt. My nipple was itchy. And I reached inside my shirt and started itching and it was wet. And I was like, what the hell? So I expressed and there were like drops of milk coming out. Well, I had this scratch on my arm and I was like, oh, breast milk's so good for scratches. Let me see if I still have some in there. I do. Every few hours I've been putting breast milk on my scratch. I have not breastfed anybody for 2 years. And I'm not saying I have a full milk supply, but it just doesn't dry up.
Yeah, it just doesn't go away like that. And I have people that will say that too. Like it's been months since I've weaned. Is this normal that I still have
people
milk?
freak out about it. I seriously, thank God I knew because I would have freaked out too.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh man, I've heard of this. Oh, it's happening to me.
I wish I still had milk.
That's what everybody says when I say that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh man, I wish I could do that.
I know.
It is really easy to just be like, oh, here I had this little cut on my shoulder. And it's just like, I'm just treating it like that.
When I first started dating Tom, he was on, he had just had knee surgery. So he was on crutches and he was complaining about the chafing under his arm from the crutches. And I was like, too bad I'm not still lactating. I could have fixed that for you. And he was like, do you think that fixes everything? And I'm like, yes, I do. It does. And now he's the producer of our podcast. So he knows that fixes everything. But,
yeah, right.
But it was just like, it was really fun. Like, that's always my first go-to is like, well, yeah, it's too bad. I could just squirt a little breast milk on that and you'll be fine.
Right.
All right, we're kind of off topic, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, but let's see. What else do we have? Do you have any more?
I do have a good one.
Okay.
Early night weaning.
Oh my God, that was going to be my next one.
Was it really?
Yes. Oh my God. That's so funny.
Early night weaning. So, and I really want to make it clear that if your baby stretches out feeds on his or her own, on their own, and they're sleeping longer stretches during the night, you can go with that. If it's baby led, you can go with it. If you are attempting to stretch your baby out on purpose, which, come on, everybody wants to try to do that because everybody wants to sleep, that will probably impact your milk supply. And that is because prolactin, which is the hormone that keeps your milk supply at a higher level, is at its peak during the night. So those overnight feeds is what tells your body, let's get more. That is why you leak more at night. A lot of parents will go, oh my God, I wake up in a pool of milk. That is why. And that is why you feel more full in the morning, because your milk supply is just kind of like ramped up during those nighttime feeds. If your baby is naturally on their own, stretching those night times out, then that's okay. You can go with that. But if you are just like not getting up during the night to feed them and letting somebody else feed them during the night with bottles or whatever, then your milk supply is probably going to suffer. Just as. I hate to say
and we're not talking about a toddler
No.
Where you are, a toddler, an older kid, that's not a baby. We're talking about an infant. But like a lot of people, when they get to the toddler years, are like starting to work on boundaries, starting to actually, it's so annoying. I hate this conversation is so annoying because it's like for the whole first year, we're like, don't space out the feeds, feed on demand, feed through the night. This is all wonderful stuff, good stuff. And then when it comes to toddlers, like, I can't take it anymore. It's like, okay, now it's okay to do all those things we told you it was not okay to do. It's okay to start stretching out the feeds. It's okay to start working with them on, that, just boundaries in general. And you could see our boundaries episodes if you want to delve into that. But by then, then everything's, you're free to do that. But early on, that stuff can really impact your milk supply. And also, I feel like we need to acknowledge how hard that is.
It is.
To be breastfeeding through the night, especially if you are having to get up to go to work. And if you have other kids, or if, just in general, not sleeping is hard on everybody. And so, what you can do to try to, first of all, it's temporary and you will get through it. And second of all, there are, work on setting up that safe bed sharing space, so that you can be laying down and sleeping while if your baby is one of these babies that nurses all night, like mine always were, try to create that safe bed sharing space in your bed, get, work on getting into a good, comfortable position at night, because sometimes just laying on your side all night just starts to feel like you're just a pile of bones and you start to get kind of sore and achy. I remember that.
Yeah.
Jamming a pillow behind your back so you've got a little something to lean on helped. Putting a pillow in between your knees can help. Switching sides. I actually was doing a video the other day on Facebook about side lying nursing, and a lot of people said that they never even thought about that.
Oh, wow.
About how you can switch sides, which really helps with that feeling of just like you've been laying in the same position.
Mm-hmm.
It really helps. It really feels a lot better on your body if you can roll over. And you can even do that without losing the latch of your baby, although you probably want to switch breasts. Yeah. So working on trying to get comfortable throughout the night can help through that. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and it kind of goes along with, it can be a tricky thing, because if you're like newborn and you're like, oh my God, I need to get a stretch of sleep to function. Because a lot of us feel like that. I just need one stretch of sleep to function. If it's like once or twice that you have somebody else feed the baby for you so that you can have a little bit longer stretch of sleep, that's not the end of the world. But if it's something that you're doing consistently, then again, it's going to impact your supply.
Yeah, like we're talking about all these things are like regular practice, regularly scheduled programming in your house.
Yeah.
If your regularly scheduled programming in your house is, somebody else feeding a very wakeful baby at night from a bottle, then that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about like, oh my God, you had a hard day. You really just need some help tonight.
Yeah, that's not
that, because your milk supply is strong. It's very sturdy and resilient. So it will take, some consistency with this too to hurt it.
So that's what, do you have any others?
No, that was all for me.
Yeah, that's it for me too.
Oh my God. That is so funny that they were basically all the same. They were all the same.
That's so crazy.
So funny.
Well, if anybody thinks of anything else, let us know.
Yeah, or if you want to know if something that you're doing, could hurt your milk supply, just ask us. I was going to say, because you hear a lot of things like before we came on, we were talking about like peppermint. You hear about like, oh, peppermint's going to hurt my milk supply, or exercising is going to hurt my milk supply, or, coffee, or like what else? I don't know. There's all these things like, oh, this can hurt your milk supply.
No.
These are not the things that are hurting your milk supply. These are not, first of all, probably your milk supply is probably not hurt. It's probably just fine. And, there's all kinds of terrible information about there that actually just makes it really hard for people to reach their goals, or to even think that breastfeeding is an option for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do all of these things anymore. And so people are like, well, forget it. That's too hard. But actually, those things are just not true. Many of those things are not true at all.
Yeah. Breastfeeding is way more resilient than anybody gives it credit for.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the bottom line. It's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Yes.
What it is.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.